Morning. Joining us now, Joe diGenova, legal analyst, former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia. Joe, good morning.
Good morning.
Joe, we had William Barr, the Attorney General, on with Bill Hemmer on Friday. He did an interview with him, and I just want you to hear, this is Bill Hemmer discussing with William Barr about this, the Steele dossier.
Can you tell us what the Steele dossier had to do with this? What role did that play?
Well, that's one of the questions, that we're going to have to look at. It's a very unusual situation to have opposition research like that, especially one that on its face had a number of clear mistakes and a somewhat jejune analysis, and to use that to conduct counterintelligence against the American political campaign is would be a strange development.
What do you think about what he had to say there about the Steele dossier and political oppo on a political campaign?
Well, the entire interview was an inflection point in the investigation into the attempt to frame Donald Trump. What he said was staggering. Now, just remember, the president has been in office since January 20th, 2017. He had a new attorney general before Barr, a new deputy attorney general, and a new FBI director, Chris Wray. And yet, at this point, the new attorney general, Mr. Barr, says the answers that he's getting from all those people are inadequate. They don't hang together. They're not sufficient. And he has more questions than when he started. Now, if you're the attorney general and the FBI has not provided you with a full explanation, and by that I mean Chris Wray has not provided you with a full explanation, what the hell has Chris Wray been doing since he was sworn in? And the answer is very simple. He's been protecting James Comey and the other people because he's an institutionalist. That interview tells you all you need to know about the new FBI director. It also tells you that this is not going away, that the Attorney General is extremely serious about this. And I'll tell you, some of these folks who did this scheme are in a lot of hurt.
I want to ask you about some of those folks, because James Comey this weekend tweeted, the AG should stop sliming his own department. If there are bad facts, show us, or search for them professionally and then tell us what you found. An AG must act like the leader of the Department of Justice, an organization based on truth. Donald Trump has enough spokespeople. This is a pretty classic attack we've heard in the last few weeks, Joe, that Bill Barr, anytime he speaks, is just being Donald Trump's lawyer, and the idea here that you would have Bill Barr look into the behavior of the Justice Department, that's a sliming of his own department, according to James Comey.
Well, you have to remember, Comey is a putative target, and indeed a likely target of any federal grand jury. What he's doing is they're mau-mauing the Attorney General in an attempt to scare him into doing nothing. Well, they have selected the wrong target. Barr will not be deterred. And indeed, Comey is encouraging the Attorney General to continue in a very professional and intense way. Mr. Durham is not going to be deterred by Mr. Comey, I can assure you. This is a sloppy, juvenile, adolescent effort on the part of Comey. He was a dirty cop on July 5th, and he remains a dirty cop till today.
He was also asked about the obstruction charge. This is cut 20 here, Luke. He was also asked by Bill Hemmer about the obstruction charge, and this is something you're hearing the Democrats go off on. This is like the little chink in the armor that they see as their way to get in and hurt the president.
You mentioned Bob Muller a few moments ago. Were you surprised that he came back with no recommendation on that obstruction charge? That surprised you?
Yes, that surprised me. The function of a prosecutor is to make a call one way or the other.
Did you ask him why?
Yeah, we discussed it.
What did he say?
Well, I already have said that we met on March 5th before he delivered the report, and he gave an explanation for it, and it's pretty much reflected in the report.
So why wouldn't Mueller take the opportunity to put that in there, to put that charge in his report? Why not?
Well, he didn't have enough evidence to charge him under the law, and he didn't want to do a decision. He wanted to dirty up the president. The entire Mueller report, which I call the Weissman Report, is not a classic prosecutorial declination letter. It's a speaking indictment. It is a sliming document meant to embarrass the President of the United States. He knew he couldn't say there was collusion, and he knew he couldn't say there was obstruction because there was neither. What you have is a document that was a political document, and Mueller has basically soiled himself in the process. It's a despicable document, it's a political document, and it reflects the Machiavellian influence of Andrew Weissman on Mueller. Mueller has stayed too long at the fair. I really do hope he testifies, because that'll be a treat for all the Republicans who get a chance to ask him some basic questions, which he won't be able to answer.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a basic one from me, and then I hope somebody asks, is why didn't, if you're going to include information about Russian disinformation campaigns, why not focus at all on the dossier, which seems to be chock full of it, and how it affected American society? On the issue of, I want to circle back to some of the answers Bill Barr has given on things that he has more questions on. Bill Hemmer asked him if he smelled a rat. Here's what he said.
Do you smell a rat in this at this point?
I don't know if I'd describe it a rat. I would just say that the answers I'm getting are not sufficient.
The answers he's getting are not sufficient. How soon do we start to get answers in public, do you think?
Well, I think that what Barr is doing is he's laying the groundwork for more serious action against the people who conspired against the President of the United States to deprive him of his civil rights. Right. I think Barr is allowing Mr. Durham to do his work and to let Durham know he has the full backing of the Attorney General to subpoena anybody and everybody that he needs to get to the bottom of this. But I want to emphasize something. This is really important. Just think about this for a second. Christopher Wray has been the FBI director for a very long time, and he still can't tell the Attorney General what happened inside of his agency. The reason he's doing it is the same reason that Mueller wrote the report the way he did. Mueller and Wray know James Comey personally for years. They adore the guy. They are acolytes of Comey. This is an embarrassment to have someone like Chris Wray running the FBI. He is truly an empty suit, and he's a dumbbell to boot.
You mentioned Durham as the Inspector General, a new Inspector General that we now know is putting together a report, has been, I guess, working for about a month on this, right?
The
U.S. Attorney.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. When we come, we're gonna take a quick break, and then when we come back, I want to ask you the difference between what he's going to be putting together and what he's going to be looking at versus what Inspector General Huber is going to be looking at.
Horowitz.
Huber.
That's right. Huber's out in Utah.
Yeah, but Huber is putting together a report.
Well, he's also a U.S. attorney.
Oh, he's a U.S. attorney as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got Huber, Horowitz, and Durham. I'm not going to go with their titles, but we've got three different competing investigations, and I'd like to know what the difference is between the three of those different reports, or if they're going to be duplicating work.
Attorney General William Barr was asked this morning on Fox about his multiple investigations into the origins of the Russia investigation. His answer: so perplexing, so potentially dangerous to the institutions of law and justice that he oversees. We don't want to air it without a disclaimer, but you're about to hear from the sitting Attorney General about an investigation into whether a foreign adversary interfering in our democracy is not normal.
And that was on MSNBC. They had to air a disclaimer before showing the potentially dangerous Barr interview. Joe, before we get to my question about Huber, Durham, and Horowitz, what is happening on stations like MSNBC where they call this potentially dangerous?
I have no idea what they're talking about. I think what they mean is it's dangerous to Comey, Brennan, and Clapper, who are people on their payroll and CNN's payroll. So I think that's what they mean. They have a severe conflict of interest since they've been paying these people money since they left government. I mean, the only one who's not on anybody's payroll other than the idiots in the publishing industry who gave him a book deal is James Comey.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back to Huber, Durham, and Horowitz. We've got three different investigations going on. Are they each investigating something different?
Well, it's hard to tell. First of all, Horowitz is investigating the FISA abuse, plus a separate investigation of James Comey personally and his conduct. Huber was supposed to be investigating leaks and a bunch of other things. He stopped his investigation because of Horowitz, so he's a useless appendage, has done nothing. In fact, he's supposed to be investigating Uranium One, yet he never contacted our law firm, and we represent the key informant in the case, Doug Campbell. So go figure. And then finally, Durham. He's the real McCoy. He's doing what Barr has asked him to do, which is get to the bottom of everything. impanel a grand jury if necessary, return indictments if necessary. The big question is whether or not Horowitz will put on his big boy pants and do something different than he did when he did the Page Strzok thing, where he lays out all of his evidence of bias, and then he says, but there's no evidence it affected any decisions. What a bunch of crap. I mean, he basically went dead to help the institution of the FBI and senior people at DOJ. If he does that again in the FISA thing, if I were the Attorney General, I'd fire him.
I want to ask you about something Trey Gowdy said over the weekend. The former congressman was on with Maria Bartiromo on Sunday, and he was talking about the fact that George Papadopoulos, in his conversations with these FBI informants, these spies, that he had exculpatory information. Anyway, Gowdy's basically deeply suggesting that either one or both of the people who were tasked with spying on George Papadopoulos in purpose were wearing a wire, and there may be actual transcripts of their conversations, including exculpatory information. What's your reaction to that?
My understanding is that there are such transcripts, and indeed, if you will notice, in the Michael Flynn case, Judge Emmett Sullivan issued an order on Friday demanding that the FBI turn over all tape recordings relevant to the Michael Flynn case. So that includes not only the Flynn conversations with Kislyak and others, but other people. Something is happening strange in the courthouse in D.C. The judges are beginning to get out of their somnambulant walk and are beginning to realize that they've been lied to by the Weissman Muller bunch for almost 2 years, and that a series of frauds on the court have been committed by Muller in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. We shall see whether or not the judges of that court have the cojones to do what they need to do. Remember Mr. Contreras, the judge who recused himself from the Flynn case after taking the plea? It is now known that he was involved in several other FISA warrants involved in this matter. Judge Contreras has a lot of explaining to do, and so does the Chief Justice of the United States as to what he's done to fix the mess that has been created with the FISA court.
We also know that a new court filing showed that Trump campaign officials considered reaching out to WikiLeaks after the website published the emails from John Podesta, and that's again from the Michael Flynn filing. This is a Michael Flynn filing in his case. He told investigators that it was only after the email dump that Trump campaign officials discussed reaching out to WikiLeaks. The narrative all along has been that the Trump campaign was working with WikiLeaks to get those emails out there because they were working with the Russians.
Look, the FBI knew this all along and didn't tell the Hill. They hid amazing amounts of information from the Hill, not only during the Comey and the post-Comey era, but during the Chris Wray era. Chris Wray tried to hide the Department of State memo from the woman Kavalek, who met with Steele prior to the first FISA and said that he was a liar. Now, why is Chris Wray hiding these documents? I mean, when you look at this and you ask yourself, how are we this far along and we don't have answers to fundamental questions? Everything points to the FBI and the incredible performance or non-performance of Christopher Wray. I'm sitting here watching this, and I'm saying, if I'm the Attorney General, I'm scratching my head saying, is Chris Wray really this dumb or this politically corrupt? What is the matter with this guy? Now, all of the things you're talking about, whether it's Trey Gowdy, knowing things that he saw during the hearings, and other people about Papadopoulos, all of that shows you that this information has been in the possession of the United States government for a long time, and we're finding out about it just now.
Right.
This was purposely done by the FBI to influence the 2018 election. They were hoping to flip the House and flip the Senate. They flipped the House, they got what they wanted there, but we picked up seats in the Senate. This is a pretty dirty story, and believe me, Bill Barr is going to get to the bottom of it.
Joe, there's something else that's come out over the weekend that is interesting. You talk about Christopher Steele. The Telegraph is reporting that Theresa May's spy chiefs, the heads of MI5 and MI6, and also one of Theresa May's trusted security advisors, were told about the Steele dossier and these memos in the weeks after Trump's election. That is prior to Donald Trump himself ever knowing. Theresa May, also, according to the Telegraph, never told by her own government. What do you make about this?
That shows that what we've all said from the beginning was this was a John Brennan operation from day one. This entire plot against the President of the United States was thought up by John Brennan, and he set it in motion He's the one who got Comey to begin an investigation. He's the one who made Harry Reid write the letter to Comey demanding an investigation. He's the one that got Clapper to leak the information to CNN after they briefed the president on January 6th in New York, 2017, about the Salacious Steele dossier. The truth is, Theresa May had information withheld from her because the people at MI6 and GCHQ, which is their NSA, conducted illegal electronic surveillance against American citizens overseas, which was unauthorized by the UK government without the consent of the Prime Minister. There is a huge scandal boiling over in the UK. More is coming. It's going to all unravel.
Wow. Joe, you never, ever leave us hanging every Monday. We really appreciate you. Thank you.